Hello friends, thank you for watching this video. I am Mohamad and today we're going to be discussing something really important when it comes to building a .NET web application, web APIs, MVC applications, so on and so forth, which is background jobs. And background jobs are basically tasks which runs in the background without any user interference. We can schedule them, we can delay them, we can basically make them run whenever we want. And because all of these background jobs needs to be handled somehow, we're going to be utilizing a library which is called Hangfire, which basically allows us to do all of these controls on all of these background jobs that we have. Hangfire has a lot of free functionality, which all we're going to be utilizing. As well, there's a paid version of that of the library where it gives you extra functionalities, which we're not going to be delve into within this video. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe. It will really help the channel. As well, if you like my videos, consider supporting me on Patreon or on buying me a coffee. Now, grab your cup of coffee and let's get started. So we're going to start first by explaining what is Hangfire and what is background jobs. So in essence, background jobs are basically any task that we want to do without any user interference. So for example, let's say we want to do a big synchronization about our data with our database, we can use a background job. We need to make sure that to clean up our database after a big operation, a background job will be able to do that. We don't want to send the batch emails to all of our subscribers. A background job can do that. So basically, in essence, it's everything that we want to do from the application side that we don't really need the user interference. It's basically stuff that runs in the background, that it can run basically at night when there's not a lot of people utilizing our system, where there's a lot of resources which are available. All of these can basically can be executed through a background job. For example, if we want to synchronize our application with a different application, we can also utilize a background job to do this synchronization instead of relying on a user to go in and actually do the synchronization themselves. So in order for us to do a background job and basically accomplish that within our application, there is multiple ways. We can actually have some kind of serverless function to accomplish this. We can have schedule cron jobs to do this. But one of the main things that it's really powerful thing that we can have within our .NET 6 applications, or basically any .NET application, is utilizing a library called Hangfire. And basically Hangfire is a way for us to actually trigger those jobs. It could be triggered based on time, it could be triggered based on recurring times, for example, or fire and forget, so on and so forth. There's multiple configuration that Hangfire provides us, and basically once we are able to actually configure this within our application, we can actually utilize all of these Hangfire configurations and basically all of these powerful features that they provide us. So for example, let's say I want to have a function which basically runs every day around midnight, where it actually sends an email to my customers. I can utilize Hangfire to do that. After a user have registered, for example, what I can do is I can send a batch welcome email within like 5 seconds or 10 seconds or a minute after the registration has been completed. I can utilize Hangfire to do that. Or for example, let's say I want to do like a scheduled synchronization process where actually it runs every few hours and I want basically the application to take care of itself. I can utilize also Hangfire to do all of that. So now that we have covered what is a background job and basically what is Hangfire, now let's start by actually first creating our web applications. And then once we create that web application, we're going to be actually adding all the NuGet packages that we're going to be needing, and then we're going to be actually see how we can actually configure this. So one thing that I want to mention here is we're not going to be actually building a full database integration. I'm just going to be utilizing an in-memory database. But if you want to learn more about databases and how you can integrate it with your .NET application, I'm gonna link a video here somewhere where you can actually go in and check that out in more details. But for now, we're just gonna be utilizing an in-memory database. So first things first, I'm gonna go to my terminal, and basically what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna navigate to a let's say cd desktop, let's say work, and inside of that folder I think I have a folder called learning.net, and inside of here I'm gonna create a new folder. Actually, I have a folder called Hangfire, so let's do that. I'm gonna create a new application, so I'm gonna make a folder. I'm gonna call it Hangfire web, for example, and I'm gonna go to that folder. Hangfire web, and from here what I'm gonna do is basically I'm gonna create my API. So what I can do is I'm gonna say .NET new web API, and then I'm gonna utilize the and keyword here, and then I'm gonna put I'm gonna call it fire app. So now this should take a few seconds to be created. Okay, great. Now that I have this application up and running, or basically created, what I need to do is basically need to open the Visual Studio Code. Okay, perfect. So now that my application is running in Visual Studio Code, let's give it a few seconds. Don't ask. And let's open this up. And from here, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna go to terminal, and I'm gonna basically open a new terminal. And the first thing that I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna navigate to my Fire app. And basically, I'm just gonna do a simple .NET build. Just simple like that. So make sure that the application is building as it should be. Now that I have build succeeded, which is great, the next step for me is I need to install some packages, and basically here what I need to install are the Hangfire packages. There's going to be multiple packages that I can install. So by default, Hangfire actually supports integration with SQL Server, where basically it will be able to store all of these tasks or background jobs that we need to do, and basically it will be able to check that SQL Server, check whatever jobs it has there, and it will run them. But for the sake of this video, I'm going to be utilizing SQLite, where basically I'm going to utilize a SQLite database where Hangfire will be able to utilize. Again, you can utilize SQL Server. There's a lot of different extensions out there, but for this video, I'm going to be utilizing SQLite instead of SQL Server. So first of all, let's start with the packages. So I'm going to put .NET, new, actually .NET, add, package. The first one is going to be Hangfire. Perfect. The next package is going to be .NET add package hangfire.core. And the last package is going to be .NET add package. It's going to be Hangfire .storage.SQLite. Okay, let's do .NET build just to make sure everything is building. Perfect. Now if we go here to our Fire app, we should be able to see that everything that we see here is basically running. So all of the NuGet packages that we have installed are available here, which is Hangfire, Hangfire Core, and SQLite. Great. Once we have done that, the next step is I want to go to my app settings. And basically within my app settings, what I want to do is I want to add a connection string to my SQLite database, where all of my Hangfire background task jobs are going to be stored there. So connection strings, and inside my connection strings, I'm just going to call it Hangfire, or I can call it default connection. I can call it whatever I want. And here I'm just going to call this database app .db. I can call it whatever I want. Let's call it Fire app because that's the name of the application. Okay, Fire app.db. That's great. Now let's go back to our program.cs. So once I have installed the packages, and basically I have installed my packages, the next thing is I need to inform my .NET application that there is going to be the Hangfire NuGet package is available. And basically what I need to tell it is I need to be able to configure my Hangfire whenever the application starts. It needs to basically notify Hangfire that the application is running, and basically it will need to delegate all of the delegate all of the tasks for Hangfire, and Hangfire will be able to take ownership of those and basically be able to run in the background without any interference from the user. And for me to do that, what I need to do is I need to basically configure my program.cs. So now what I'm going to be doing is inside my program.cs, first things first is basically I need to inform my builder or my services that Hangfire is going to be utilized. So it's going to be builder dot services dot add Hangfire. Let's fix those references. Using Hangfire, maybe it took a few seconds for it to actually recognize that there's a package here. So once I have added that, I'm just gonna add the config, and then within my config, I'm gonna say config, first of all, is dot use simple assembly name type. So that's gonna be the first one. The second thing I wanna do is basically use recommended serializer settings. So that's gonna be the second thing. And the third thing is I wanna specify that I'm gonna utilize SQLite storage, and for this I need to add a reference, and then from here what I can do is simply just refer back to my connection string. So I can put builder dot configuration dot get connection strings, and basically I need to pass here my connection string. And if we take a look at our app settings, we call the default connection. So let's copy this. Oops. Let's just type it, default connection. Okay. So now that I have basically did the first part of my configuration, the next part is, so basically what I did is I have added my services to my DI container. So basically right now my application will be able to recognize that there's a Hangfire service running. Now what I need to do is basically I need to add it to my middlewares, and I need to inform it that it needs to run in the middlewares. So for me to do that, all I need to do is after the app.map controllers, what I need to do is I need to app.use Hangfire dashboard. So that's going to be the first one, because basically what we need to do is we need to utilize the dashboard to visualize all of my background jobs. As well, I'm going to be utilizing the app.map Hangfire dashboard. So that's going to be the first configuration. So right now, this will allow us to basically have a dashboard out of the box that we're actually going to be able to utilize in order for me to see all of the background jobs that's running, and to see if there's anything which has failed, anything which is actually needs to need my attention, and basically everything which is running as it should be. So that's going to be the first thing. But right now, what I did it here is I added it without any security. So anyone right now can go to my URL /Hangfire and they will be able to see everything. Later down in this video, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be actually adding some security perspective into it. So I'm basically able to secure my my Hangfire, so only people with specific credentials will be able to actually log in and see all of this background task running. So for now, we're going to keep this. And the next thing is what I need to do is I want to add a model for drivers, again Formula 1 themed, and basically I'm going to create a controller and see how I can actually attach all of these background tasks to run within my controllers as well. So first of all, I'm going to create a models, and within this model is going to be very simple. I'm going to create a class and I'm going to call it driver.cs. And this is going to be a class. So first of all, I need to provide the namespace, which is going to be fireapp.models. And then what I need to do is I'm going to put public class driver. And this is going to be a very simple model, which is going to be first properties. It's going to be of type say GUID, and we're going to put an ID. And then I'm gonna put public, let's say string, name, and let's say something which is, let's give it a default value, prop, and I'm gonna say driver number. And lastly, I just want to give it a status. So if it's deleted, we'll delete it from here. That's it. Very simple model. it's basically it contains an ID, a name, a driver number, and the status. That's all it is. So once I have done that, the next step for me is basically just to go in and basically start creating my controller. So controllers, and I'm gonna be creating a new, actually what I can do is just duplicate this file. So I can call this drivers controller, and I'm just gonna update this to drivers controller, drivers controller, drivers controller, and drivers controller. And I don't really need this, so I can just delete it. And I'm gonna need this as well, so I'm gonna delete it here. So now basically I have deleted all of those, and I have a basically clean controller which I can add whatever I want. So as I said previously, that we're going to be utilizing an in-memory database here to make sure that we are mimicking some kind of a CRUD action. And basically once we added that in-memory database, we're going to add a couple of actions, and then we're going to be seeing how we can actually then we're going to be creating some kind of a service where we're going to mimic an actual service, and then we're going to be seeing how we can actually utilize Hangfire for us to schedule these services and actually utilize them. So first things first is let's create this fake, not fake, an in-memory database. So it's gonna be private static list of drivers. I'm gonna call it drivers equal new driver. So that's gonna be the first thing. Now let's fix those references. Perfect. And now what I'm gonna be doing is I'm just gonna be adding a couple of the actions. So I'm gonna put HTTP GET, or actually let's do the post first. So we'll put public action result, and what do we need here? We need to make it this add driver, and it's just gonna take a driver. I have another video which basically delve into how we could utilize AutoMapper and basically how we can utilize DTOs. Again, I'm gonna link it here somewhere where it's actually you're gonna be able to see how you can optimize the input of your API. If you're interested, you can actually check that out. But for now, we're just utilizing the very basic, simple example of how we can send an object to our API. So all I'm saying here is if model state dot is valid. So in case this is valid, what I want to do is basically I'm gonna put drivers dot add driver, and I'm gonna be returning here return created at action, and I don't have this action yet. I'm gonna add it. It's called get driver, and basically what I want to do is I want to pass the new object, which is going to be without the object here. I'm just going to pass the driver.id, and I'm going to pass the object. That's it. And lastly, in case it did not work out, I'm just going to be returning, for now, just a bad request. Okay, let's add this new action here, which is get driver. It's gonna be a pretty simple one. So HTTP GET, and I'm gonna put here is public action result get driver, and this will take basically a GUID of type ID. And what I'm gonna be doing here is just simply var driver equal drivers dot first or default. I'm just gonna match it on the ID itself, equal ID, and then based on that, all I'm gonna say is if it's not null, if a driver equal to null. I'm gonna return not found. Else, or basically else I'm gonna be returning okay with the driver. Okay, that's gonna be the first thing. Now let's again run this application to make sure that everything is running as it should be. So .NET build. Perfect, we can see that our application is running as it should, or building as it should at least. So the next step is I want to add the delete. I think that should be enough. So if I come here, scroll a bit down, and basically I'm put HTTP delete, and it's gonna be public action result. I'm gonna make delete driver. Again, it's gonna take a GUID of ID, and we're gonna do the same thing. So var driver equal drivers dot first or default, and I'm gonna map this basically based on the ID equal ID. And then once I do that, I'm gonna say if driver not equal to null, or actually let's continue the same pattern as before. If it is equal to null, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna return not found. And let's remove these, we don't really need them here. Let's remove this one, let's remove this one. And in case it has been found, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna update the status for it. So I'm just gonna put driver.status equal 0, which means it's been deleted. And then basically I'm gonna return. So delete usually return, what is it? No content. And that should be it for now. So right now it's very simple. What we have here is basically we have a mimicking a CRUD operation. So we have a model of a driver, we have a API endpoint, where it's basically a controller, where we have a in-memory database for the drivers itself, and basically within that we have 3 actions, which is basically allow us to add a driver, delete a driver, and basically view a driver. All of these 3, only these 3 endpoints. So now what we're going to be doing is we're going to be creating a service. Again, all of those services are going to be just like to see how we can actually mimic different services, and then we're going to be seeing how we can actually update this controller to take advantage of Hangfire to actually make this service functions to run in the background. So inside my main application here, so I'm gonna be creating a new folder, and this folder I'm gonna call it services. And this services folder is gonna contain an interface. So I'm gonna call this interface I service management .cs. So that's going to be the first one. And this one basically is going to be like an interface, which is going to allow me to add, it's going to define all of the methods. So it's going to be pretty simple. So let me just fix this 1 second. So here what I'm just going to say, I'm going to put namespace, and I'm going to put here, it's going to be fireapp.services. And then I'm gonna define my interface, so it's gonna be public interface, and this is gonna be I service management. And I'm gonna define a few methods here. So void, for example, we can say send email. So that could be one background method that I have. Another one, it could be void, for example, update database. So that could be another one. The third one, it could be void generate, I don't know, merchandise. So let's say we have a new driver and we want to generate merchandise for them once they are added. We can do that automatically. And the last one, it could be just synchronization. So void sync data. It could be anything we want. So now that I have my interface, I'm just gonna create a fake implementation. Again, this is all trying to mimic an actual service. We're just gonna see how we can actually, we're not gonna be building those services, but we're gonna see how we can actually mimic those services and we can utilize them in a background way. Oh, sorry, as a background jobs. So I'm gonna create a new file, and this one is gonna called service management.cs. And inside of here, I'm gonna the same namespace, which is gonna be FireUp.services, and then it's gonna be public class. It's gonna be service management, which is basically gonna utilize the service management interface. Oops, service management. And here we see it's not happy because basically we didn't implement the interface, so now let's implement it. And what we're gonna be doing here is we're just gonna be basically, instead of throwing an exception, what we're gonna be doing is we're just gonna do console.writeLine. Again, this is all to try to mimic that functionality. .writeLine, and we're gonna be saying here that, for example, generate, if I can type this morning, generate merchandise. And here I'm gonna say this is gonna be a long running, for example, method task. And I'm just gonna add as well my the time and date where it actually started. So I'm just gonna put here, let's see, it's gonna be date time. So let's do it. Date time dot now dot toString, and here I'm just gonna specify the format that I want. So I want it to be in like year. Actually, let me copy paste it. I have it somewhere else here, which is in a much better way. So it's gonna be something like this. Okay, perfect. So what I can do is just copy this one and then update the rest to mimic it. So basically it will be something like, for this was gonna be for sending emails, I'm just gonna paste this here, and instead of this one I'm gonna say send email, and this is gonna be a short running task. Sync data, this is gonna be again sync data, and this is gonna be as well short running task. And this one here is gonna called update database, and this is gonna be a long running task. So now that we have our service ready, basically the next step for us is we need to actually inject this service into our program.cs, so it will basically be able to pick up by our service, and our DI container will be able to recognize that there is this service available so we can utilize. So it's going to be very simple. We're going to go to our program.cs and add basically a single line there where basically we are introducing this service to our DI container. So let's go to program.cs, and here all we need to do is, before we build the application, all we're gonna add is builder dot services dot add transient, and basically here all I'm gonna be is basically service management and let's fix those references. Let's just align this so it will look good. Okay, and what I'm gonna be doing here as well is, first of all, let us build this application and make sure that everything is running as it should be. So .NET build, perfect. Now that it has built successfully, the next thing that I need to do is I just want to make sure that let's run it. So let's do .NET run, it's better. .NET run. we can see that my application is running. And what I'm just gonna do is just take my URL, and let's open up in a web browser. So let's open up in Firefox. Okay, we don't need this right now. Set up in seconds. Okay, let's choose the dark one. Next, give it a stop and start browsing. Okay, so all I'm gonna be doing here is I'm just gonna go to my local host and I'm gonna go to Swagger and I'm just gonna put /index.html. And it's gonna tell me that it needs to verify my SSL certificate. I'm just gonna say accept, and now we can see here that I have my my endpoints available for me. So posting a driver. So let's try this out. So I'm gonna put the name here, Sir Lewis. Driver number is 44, and it's active. Oops. And now if I click on execute, we can see that I got a 201. So now if I try to come here and basically do get driver, and let's click on try it out, I'm just gonna specify ID1, execute. Oh, sorry, I need to, it wasn't the ID, this one is the ID, so let's copy this ID. And now execute, we can see I got the driver back, perfect. And I can delete. I'm not gonna delete right now. So now I can make sure that my application is running, and basically what I have here is I have my CRUD fully operational. So the first background job that I want to add is basically I want to specify a task which runs every 2 hours, or basically for the sake of this video I'm gonna make it every few seconds to run. And basically this will allows me to make sure that this functionality is gonna basically mimic synchronization process that might happen in the background. And basically what I want to do is I want to configure it that it will run every few seconds in order for me to basically synchronize my information between the different sources. And again, this is trying to mimic a real world scenario where I have, for example, my application with a different API which I need to pull the data every hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, depending on the case that I have, and basically it will basically run in the background without any user interference. So in this section right now, we're going to be basically adding this, and we're going to see how easy it is for us to actually create this background jobs with a single line basically. So let's do this right now. So first things first is inside my program.cs. First of all, I'm gonna be stopping this, so Control C, and then inside my program.cs, after this here, I'm just gonna add basically the recurring job. So I'm just gonna say recurring jobs, and I'm gonna say dot add and or update, and basically I need to specify the service that I want to tap into, which is gonna be the iService management. And basically I'm almost done right now. All I need to say is the service dot which one I want to synchronize the data, for example. And basically what I need to do right now is I need to specify my cron expression. And if you don't know what a cron expression is, it's basically the date format that I want to, I'm basically informing my application on how often it needs to run. So basically in Linux, we have the cron format, which basically it runs for any cron jobs that we have. And basically it follows a certain like milliseconds, minutes, hours, days, so on and so forth. So we're going to be seeing right now, I'm going to share a website where you can actually go and visualize this. It will make it much more easier to create your own cron jobs. And we're going to do this right now. We're going to create a cron job which runs every few seconds. Again, in real life scenario, if you're going to synchronize it, you might want to do it every hours, 2 hours, but for the sake of this video, we're going to make it to run every minute or every few seconds. So let's do it this right now. So here, what I want to do is let's go back to Firefox, and I'm going to go to this URL. Let's go to it. And here all I'm gonna put is this one. And basically here, let's see, I don't want this, so let's manage the options and confirm choices. I don't want any of this. So all I want to here is I want to have a cron job which runs every, let's say, every 5 seconds or every 10 seconds. And I think that should be it. Basically that tells me that I have a cron job that it can run on that, or basically I can make it run every second. So I can make it like this. And this basically will allow me to actually make it run every second. What I'm gonna do, I don't think you can see it, so I'm gonna just move this a bit to the right. That way it will be easier. Yes, now I think you can see it properly. And here, for example, different ways. So what I'm gonna do is I already have this cron job. So I already have configured this. So if I just type this here, I paste it and say describe. Basically this method will describe this, and it tells me that it's gonna run at 0.0 of every minute. So that's something good that I can have. So I'm gonna be utilizing this cron job here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go back, and for this one here, I'm just gonna specify this cron job. And all I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna run this, and I'm gonna open my, keep an eye on my terminal and see basically the logs which is coming out. And basically that logs coming out should basically tell me that if my services are running in the background or not, without me actually doing anything. So .NET run, and now it says it's building, and we can see it's running. So now let's wait just a minute, and we want to see if it's actually going to be able to trigger this background job on every minute. So let's just wait for a minute and let's see if this is going to run. Okay, so I just realized that I have missed the one item that I needed to add, and basically that I needed to make sure that I enabled the Hangfire server. So let's do this right now. So here what I'm actually going to be adding is, it's very simple. I'm just going to put builder dot services dot add Hangfire server. That's all I needed to do, and I forgot to add it. So now let's try this again. Let's just run this again. .NET run. And we can see here that my Hangfire server is running. And basically, if we just give it a minute to make sure that this to see if this will actually start picking up and it starts running. So we can see here that my sync data has started, and basically we can see that it's actually it triggered it at 8:34.05. Now the next one, it should be at 8:35.05. With here we are trying to mimic that every single minute. What we're doing is we're actually initiating again and again, as we said previously. In a real world scenario, it's going to be every hour or 2 hours depending on our needs, but for now we can see it actually run it again. And let's just wait another a bit more time, and we're going to be able to see that it's popping up again. While we are waiting, I think it should take another like a few seconds. The next step that we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding this services into our controller to see how we can actually trigger them directly from our actions based on our needs. So let's just give it one more. Let's open this while it's actually running. And what I'm going to be doing right now is I'm just going to add inside my controllers. For example, we're adding a driver here. I'm going to add a new item, and sorry, we can see here that it also ran again at 35.20 milliseconds. So again, that's the same time as the minute before. So every minute again is incrementally adding and adding and adding. So that's the behavior that we want to see. Now let's stop this application, because we don't really need it anymore. And now what we're gonna be doing is we're just gonna enable a job where basically we're gonna see it's whenever we add a driver, it's gonna trigger it after a few milliseconds, or a delayed job, basically what we're going to be implement. Because as we said, within Hangfire we have different types. We have fire and forget, we have delayed jobs, we have recurring jobs, so on and so forth. But for now we're just going to be running a fire and forget job. So an easy way to do that is we're just going to put var driver job ID equal say background job. Okay, I think let's fix those references. Yes, Hangfire. I'm just gonna say here in queue, and here it's gonna ask me from which interface that I wanna utilize. I'm gonna say I service management. I service. Let's fix those references. Perfect. And here all I'm gonna say is which service I want to utilize, and just for here I'm gonna say send an email. As simple as that. Now basically what I did is I created a background job where basically I'm able to send an email as soon as, for example, my driver register. I did not call it, basically I did not trigger it directly. All I did is I delegate this job to my background services to take care of, instead of basically utilizing the main thread for me to do that. So what I did is I just delegated this, and basically since I delegated it, it's now fire and forget, and basically the background job will be able to take care of this functionality. So let's try it. So let's do .NET run. And now we can see that it's building, our server is running. Now we're gonna see again that that background task is gonna start. Let's go to our web browser, and I'm gonna come here to my swagger.ui, and I'm just gonna change this ID. And instead of Sir Lewis, I'm just gonna put George Russell, and driver number is 63. And now if I execute, what I should see inside my terminal, or basically here, let me make it a bit smaller so we can monitor it. I should see like a trigger has been initiated to send an email. So basically we're triggering the background job. So let's see if that will work. Okay, let's make this a bit smaller. So now all I want to see is my terminal below. So let's execute this. And now it has been executed, and because it's fire and forget, we should be able to see it here. And we can see here that send an email short running task has been initiated at 8:38:44 seconds. And now this is basically, it has been delegated to the background job, and it's running from there. So that's one way of doing it. Another way we can do is whenever for example, let's say I wanna update or basically delete a driver. So let's do that. So let's go back to my driver controller, and let's say whenever I delete a driver, what I want to do is I want let's say I want to synchronize my database. So again, the way that I do that is all I need to do is do recurring jobs dot add or update, specify my interface, and here I'm going to say I service management. And here all I'm gonna say is x dot, let's say I want to synchronize data or update my database, anything that I want, for example. And what I want to do here, I want to specify a cron, so I can say cron dot run hourly. I can run whatever I want, so I'll just put it hourly. And here, something else what I'm doing is whenever I'm deleting a driver or basically something that's happening, what I can do is basically I'm just telling it that it needs to update the data for any single reason, and it needs to run every hour after that, just to make sure that the data is running. Basically all of these scenarios are fake, but just so we can see here how we can actually implement different types of background jobs based on our needs. So let's try this again. So let's save this and let's stop this. And let's go back and run it. Okay, now that it's running, what we're gonna be doing is, let's go to our web browser again, and let's try to add this driver here. And all I'm gonna do is just take the same ID that I have, and I'm just gonna delete it. So right now, if I see my terminal, I can see that the sync data has been triggered and my send email is running. So now what I want to do is, if I try to delete it, I need to see that the other one which has started to run. So I go to drivers, try it out, specify an ID, execute, and now basically you can tell I got a no content which is deleted. But if I come here right now, it should run every hour. I should not have make it hourly, but basically let's make it a second and let's try it again. Let's say minute. Let's make it every minute. Minute. Okay, let's try this again. So I need to stop this and let's run this. .NET run. Perfect. Let's go to our web browser and let's create this user again, or basically this driver again. So execute, and now here all I want to do is first make sure that send the email. We can see email is sent, and now I'm just gonna delete that driver, and basically I want to see what do I got here. I got basically deleted. Okay, now let's just wait a minute, and while we are waiting, I want to show you one of the other main powerful feature that Hangfire provide, which is basically the dashboard. So I'm just going to delete all of this. I'm just going to type here Hangfire. And now what we can see here is we can see the dashboard, and this dashboard here, which is actually one of the main powerful things that Hangfire provide, is we actually manage all of the background tasks, see what is running, what is currently running, how much background jobs are running at the same time, and basically we'll be able to manage all of our background tasks simultaneously. So if I come here and I go here, I can see that I have the number of jobs, and here I can see those 2 jobs are running. And for example, I can see that my sync data and updated database is running, or basically are in queued to be run. And before, sorry, just because it just popped up, we can see that my update database has run after 1 minute of me triggering this, which is exactly the thing that I wanted. Now let's go back to the dashboard. Where is it? So let's go to the dashboard, and here we can see everything which is queued. And this is the 2 recurring job which is happening. So this one started and this is actually running now. And we can see here, this is my main server, which is gonna be the thing which is responsible for running the background jobs. We can see I have 20 workers. And if I go back here, we can see that everything is running. I can do week view, day view, and basically I'm able to see here the number of succeeded jobs. If anything has failed, I can see that it actually failed. And basically it allows me to have a very good view about basically all of my background services which my server is handling. And here I can see that all of these, the history of all of the jobs that has run. So update database, synchronize data, send the email, and I can make sure that, for example, if I click on it, I can make sure that it has succeeded, that what time had started, how much time it took, so on and so forth. And basically all of that is available for us for free. We're not configuring anything, we're not creating those dashboards, it's just available for us. So you might think to yourself, okay, that's fine, I'm able to do all of this, but if I leave it like that within the /Hangfire, it's basically anyone can go into this URL and basically see my background jobs. So how can I secure it? And that's a very good way, very good to ask question. So the way we secure it is very easy. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to stop this. First thing we need to do in order for us to actually secure it is we need to install a new package. And this package is going to be basically called the dashboard, Hangfire dashboard. So we're going to put .NET add, where am I typing? Okay, let's see it here. Okay, .NET add package, and this is going to be the Hangfire dashboard dot basic dot authentication. Perfect. Now all I need to do is come here and update this. So first of all, what I need to do is just specify the same domain that I want, which is /Hangfire. And then all I need to do is add a new dashboard options. And for these options, what I want is specify first of all the app name. So it could be the the dashboard title. I'm just gonna call it dashboard. Driver's dashboard. And then what I need to do is I'm gonna specify the authorization. And for example, for the authorization, I'm just gonna put it's equal to new. We can see that it's taking the authorization will take an array of authorization filters. So we're gonna put it like this. And all I'm gonna be doing here is just specify a new Hangfire custom I think it's called basic authentication. I think this is it. Let's double check. It's gonna be Hangfire custom basic authentication filter. I forgot the filter. And let's see this. Perfect. And then once I do that, let's close this. And here what I'm just gonna put the password for the time being. I'm just make it very simple. I'm just gonna put it password, and for the username I'm just gonna make it Mohamad. Very simple. And now all I'm gonna do is just save this and run my application again. And now let's go back to my web browser. And if I come here and just put Hangfire again, we can see instead of directly taking us to the Hangfire dashboard, what I'm able to see is the username and a password. So I'm just gonna put Mohamad. And here I'm just gonna put the same password that I added. And basically I'm able to see my dashboard again. So one thing I would like to mention is do not hard code your username and password inside your application, and even do not put in the app settings. Just use secrets and hide it there. Again, this is all for demo purposes. And here we can see that the power of Hangfire and how we can actually utilize it in order for us to actually create a background jobs. So this is what we wanted to cover in today's video. Again, this was a very high level overview about the Hangfire implementation, how we can actually add it to our web API, how we can actually configure it, utilize it, so on and so forth. So let's do a quick recap. So first things first is we have discussed what is a background job and what is Hangfire. Then what we actually did is we actually discussed how we can actually integrate this. We installed the packages, we created a simple crud operations with an in-memory database. And then once we have done all of that, the next step is we have basically configured Hangfire. We created some recurring background jobs, we created the delayed jobs, we created jobs which is run on a certain in a certain amount of time whenever we wanted to, and then we saw the dashboard and how we can configure it and make it secure. So I really hope this video was helpful. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. It will really help the channel. As well, if you'd like to support me, please consider supporting me on Patreon or buying me a coffee. It will be really helpful. And again, thank you very much for watching and have a great day.